Hello, friends. You are listening to the Aligned Birth podcast. You have both hosts here today. I'm Dr. Shannon, Doula Rachael here as well. And I usually start off saying something like today's birthday topic. And I don't know that it's a birthday topic, but we're going to turn it into a birthday topic because this is what we do. But we're going to talk a little bit about maybe setting yourself up for success at the start of a new year. I mean, we're recording this at the beginning of 2024, and sharing a little bit of what I've done for the past few years. And so something called where I pick a word of the year. So that's kind of what this episode is about, but tying into not only the word of the year, but maybe there's some like birth affirmations, words for birth, mantras for birth, things like that. And it kind of gives you, I don't know, when the going gets tough, you can come back to that word, come back to that thought, come back to that statement, whatever it is, that mantra, you can kind of come back to that to maybe help like recenter and ground again and remind you of your why. So maybe that's a little bit of what word of the year means to me. So that's what we're going to talk about this year. I've done this exercise for a pretty good amount of time. And so we'll kind of dive into what I have noticed over the years with doing this little exercise. And yeah, we'll kind of go from there. Welcome to the Aligned Birth podcast. I'm Dr. Shannon, a prenatal chiropractor.
And I'm Rachael, a birth doula and childbirth educator. Together, we're here to bring you conversations about pregnancy, birth, and motherhood. From cesarean to VBAC, hospital to home births, we've experienced it all. We are high school friends who reconnected through our shared passion for health and birth. As moms to two young boys, we've both changed careers after our own transformative childbirth experiences.
Join us as we discuss the importance of a healthy body and mind throughout pregnancy, birth, and into motherhood. Our goal is to provide fun, interesting, and helpful conversations and interviews that inspire learning. When your body, mind, and intuition are aligned, you can conquer anything.
Sit back and relax, or grab a notebook and take some notes, or maybe listen as you enjoy a walk. However you choose to listen, we hope you enjoy this episode of the Aligned Birth podcast. Before we get into the episode today, if you enjoy the content of this podcast, we would greatly appreciate your support in one of three ways. First, leave us a review or give us a 5-star rating. Your feedback helps us reach more listeners and make a bigger impact. Second, you can sign up for our newsletter. By doing so, you'll be the first to receive new episodes and exclusive bonus resources straight to your inbox each week. Lastly, you can become a direct listener supporter. Running this podcast requires significant time, effort, and resources. Your contribution, no matter the amount, helps us continue providing valuable content to a wider audience. Simply use the links in the show notes to make your donation, sign up for our newsletter, or leave us a review. Every contribution matters and is sincerely appreciated. If the Aligned Birth podcast is a part of your weekly routine and you love what we are doing, please consider supporting us through one of these three options. Your support will create a ripple effect, allowing us to reach more listeners and make a lasting difference.
So I'm excited to chat today with you, Doula Rachael.
Hi, Dr. Shannon. Thank you so much for that intro. I love this practice that you do, and that you have been so committed to doing it and the benefit that it brings, and that you carry it through your whole year, kind of finding where that word has worked and stood out or brought other change, or, I like how you just are so reflective and you're so intentional. And I think that is the goal. And I think that's what we want to impart, is like being intentional. So starting the year with intentionality, and then if you're pregnant, kind of using that as a new season and maybe considering setting an intention or a word for yourself to get through the next big season of giving birth.
And I guess you always talk about, like being the bamboo, being like firm but flexible. And that's kind of what it is with this word too. Like, you don't have to do it at the beginning of the year. You can do it at the beginning of your pregnancy. You don't have to. The word can change. The word can mean something different. You can pick the word and not like it and want to do something different. Like, there's lots of things with it, but just, I guess, being like a little bit flexible with it too, at least what I have looked at. I will say in the recent past, last year, the word that I picked stuck with me more, I would say more so than any of the other words that I have chosen. And I do a vision board exercise usually at the beginning of every year too. I've done that for quite a while now. And last year I had that word all over my vision board, like all over the vision board. So I don't know if that helped. And then I had the board up to where I could actually like see it daily. And I don't know if that helped with the word a little bit, or I don't know. It was interesting because I feel like that's the first time I'd actually put the word on there. Now I may have had, pictures to represent the word, but yeah, I don't know. It was kind of interesting. I think it's really neat when you go back and look at it. Mm-hmm.
Tell us what that word is.
Okay.
And what it means to you.
This word. Okay. So here's what we're doing for this year. The word for this year is going to be bold. I tend to go sometimes it'll come to me a little bit like towards the end of the year of what I'm thinking for next year. And that's when it comes, the word. I don't know how it comes, but I kind of put it out there. Like, I would really like some sort of word or some sort of focus. Then the word kind of morphs into, a little bit of a statement and how I want to apply it. I've looked at how I want to apply it in kind of all aspects of my life, at least with this word. I don't know if this is the same. Maybe a little bit with last year too, but so bold. A big thing is I really do want to be kind of bold in my faith as far as stepping out and being, I don't know. I feel like and most people would probably think, oh yeah, you do step out in faith and, taking those risks and that sort of thing. But, internally it can feel different. So I do want to be bold in my faith, but I want that boldness in that faith to kind of go into my business and my marriage and my parenting and my motherhood and like in me and my friendships. Like it's kind of going into all of those areas, and not necessarily, because then I went through and I wrote down all of like the synonyms of the word too. Because sometimes I'll do that and be like, okay, well, is there something else that speaks to me? And I don't want bold as far as like arrogant, like in your face. Like when I picked it, that's what it was kind of like. And I was like, no, like it's like a subtle bold. It's like bold to me, not bold, in your face type of thing. So bold in my words, actions. So yeah, that's the word for this year.
Were there any of the synonyms of bold that stood out to you?
Courageous was one, and I feel like vibrant was the other. Yeah. So when I told my oldest about my word, and he really liked it. I think he picked a word. I think he wanted to do strength this year. And so kind of going through exercises as far as like, what does that mean to him? You know,
because it can mean so many things.
Type of things. Yeah. And so when I was telling him about bold, it was nice to kind of go through and describe it, but I told him bold, and then I went and I bought a new planner. And, picking the color of your planner is like, I don't know. It's like a big deal, right? The one I used to get in the past, it was always white, so I didn't have to like think about it, but I was like, I did something different this year. And, I pulled it out of the bag and I showed Ethan, and I was like, and he goes, that's bold, the color. And it's bright red, like, and I was like, awesome. So it was neat for him to have that little, that
he's seeing it, and then when you bold. Share it with your family and your people, like they can identify that too, and it kind of is encouraging of like, okay, this is a little thing I'm doing that's bold, and all of those little things add up to bigger things over the course of time. And I hear bold, and I don't hear arrogant. I hear sort of like fearless, like maybe getting outside of comfort zone, like you've come so far and you're so accomplished. And I'm sure there's always, you want to keep going and growing and putting yourself in new places or circumstances or whatever. And you need boldness to do that, or otherwise we kind of stay in the same place. Like in order to kind of keep taking big steps forward, faith, family, work, like you got to be bold.
It's got
And
to
I
be
think that's a
bold.
wonderful word for you, because I think it's not typical. Like I think it's probably a way you want to be seen in some areas, but it's not like your persona.
That's why the word is scary to me, because I try to minimize, or I don't know. I want to be very particular with my words and careful, but
more people need to hear what you have to say. More people need to hear what you have to offer. More people need to hear your perspective. And it takes an element of boldness to do that, and not worrying, kind of got to let some of the whatever projections the world has put on you, or you think like that you need to minimize or be small or fit into a certain thing or people please or not rock the boat. You have to let some of that go in order to truly be bold and be authentic. And I love it. I love that for you.
That's my word. It feels really good. It feels very scary. But and there was one other word in okay, backtrack. This is kind of fun. I used to blog at the office, and I love being in a position of having the website and I don't know, having a space to share words. And I did it very consistently for the first few years I was open. And then April 2021 was the last blog that I wrote. And so here we are, January 2024. And I did just finally put out my most recent blog. And so this most recent blog I have is Word of the Year. And so that's what led to this conversation here. And so what I did was I kind of just outlined. I started it in 2018, and I went through, and I have this little ready piece of paper that's in my Bible. Because otherwise, if I don't know, I have papers everywhere, and it's kind of I wanted to have something that had all the words of the year and just little jots of okay, how did that year go? How did that word end up applying? Not just what I wanted it to be, but what did it end up being? And so that's what I shared a little bit in the blog that I wrote. So that's kind of where we're going here. So that's my intentions with this word. The last time I feel like I had a big word. I didn't realize it was big, but whenever I would mention it to people, they were like, oh, that's a big word. So 2018, I had the word growth. And that was the word that I wanted. And that ended up being a very, very interesting year. I know what I had intended the word to mean because I had graduated chiropractic school in 2017. So it would make sense. 2018, it's okay, growth into who I am as a chiropractor and yada, yada, yada. Well, that was the year I did decide to step out on my own and open my own office, which that was the scariest thing. Well, not the scariest thing ever. And then as soon as I did that, a few months later, we were in this horrible car accident. And then I was trying to open an office and recover from that and manage everything. And so I switched in the middle of the year, that word, and went from growth to surrender, as in it was kind of one of those Jesus take the wheel type of things for me. Cause I was I don't know what's happening right here. I was I said growth. This is not what I had in mind. This is not okay.
Gosh, there's so many perceptions of growth though.
That. I know.
Growth,
so that was,
you can't tell me growth did not happen.
So I changed the word, but I didn't change the word. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it just takes on different meaning in different phases. And to have true growth, something has to die or has to fully surrender. It's not just always grow. With growth comes something else. And that is your sort of the other side of the coin for you. And major
it was crazy, but that's why I love this little piece of paper that I have, because
that memory,
it gives me that perspective. It gives me that perspective of oh yeah, that was this year. And then it can be okay, there was this that was going on. But I absolutely love analyze. I love to read, and one of my favorite books was The Scarlet Letter. And I remember all of the symbolism in that book. That's what I think I really, really love, was the daughter named Pearl and the red letter and all of these symbolism aspects in that book. And I think I've taken that and I do that with my looking at the word from last year and like seeing the symbolic moments of it. I don't know. I enjoy that. Maybe not everybody else is going to enjoy that, but.
And not everyone else has to, though. It's a practice that you enjoy that has great purpose for you. And I love it. I think it's so cool. And now that you did the blog with all of the words since you started this, now each year you can revisit this blog.
Go add to it.
And then you'd have that you journal, kind of permanent journal situation, and then you can kind of keep adding to it. And then you'll be able to reflect back on it. So I think it's super cool.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad I kind of put this out here because, so 2019, the word was kumbhaka. I can't remember where I heard this, but it's a yoga word, I believe. And it's that the pause between inhale and exhale. It might have been from my friend, Jen Hornberg. She came to my vision board event. I had several back that year. She and her husband own, they're acupuncturists. And so they own an office near me, and it's the pause between like inhale and exhale where you can choose how you respond to a situation. So that makes sense that was my word, because the year before was like a shit show. And I was like, bah! So I had, I could control how I could respond to situations, but the only thing I could control. So that one was really fun. 2020.
I don't know if anyone can say that year without having feelings.
When I first wrote this, I had my words switched. I thought 2020, I had one word, and 2021, I had the other. But I actually, when I went back and checked my little piece of paper, thank goodness I can fact check myself. I was like, oh, I had that completely wrong. And I was like, oh my gosh, my word was alignment. And I had all these you have to read the blog, because I actually wrote a blog called 2020 Vision, Reflecting on a Decade. And so I wrote this at the beginning of the year. Yeah. Before what was 2020. And it was fascinating to go back and look at what my intentions were with the word and how that played out, what I was thinking it would mean, and then what it ended up being. I feel like that year was a year of alignment for a lot of people, as far as you had to, pick and choose and what aligned with you. And I don't know. It was interesting to say the least.
Yeah. Well, I love the word alignment. And I think 2020 brought many lessons for many people, and even in the moment lessons. And then now we have a lot of hindsight lessons. I think a lot of people have feelings and opinions about that time different than they did in the moment, right? It was you couldn't pay me enough money to go back to that time. It was so stressful. It was so stressful. But still sort of reflecting on that word and how it took on a whole new meaning in that year. And that's what I like about it, is the adaptability kind of with a word, is it can be used in a lot of different ways. And I like how you wrote here, alignment to me doesn't mean straight and rigid. The curves of the spine help the brain and body communicate efficiently, and the curves of our lives help us to become who we are meant to be. So it's not alignment we have to be perfect. It's alignment just with where you are. And something I've learned from you through the years is and maybe since about 2019 or 20, is your intentionality around your life commitments, really trying to choose things that align with you and your family and your overall goals, and that keep your mental space happy and healthy. I think there was somewhere in this time that I feel like it was the example was the PTA commitments or room mom commitments. And they were just frying you out. And you were like, I'm saying no. And that's okay, because it's more in alignment with my being, and I'm going to serve in other ways to other people and be better for my family. We don't have to say yes to everything. And now you're always in the back of my mind when I'm navigating those obligations in my life. And sometimes I'm wishing I was better.
To do this? Check yes or no. Does this make you happy? Yeah. I'll just whisper in your ear. I know.
And that's so hard. I struggle with the does it make me happy, because I feel like there's so many things in my current season that are more obligatory. And I'm not mad about that. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's a season and I want to participate because I worry that if I look back, I might have regrets because I only get this chance once.
Mm-hmm.
But I still feel like there's room for intentionality and that you still don't have to say yes to everything. Like I can still do those things, but also show up in a meaningful way and do them. Like I'm room mom, but I like don't go crazy on like the gift for the teacher. I did a whole bunch of gift cards and collected funds from parents and then sent it in.
Kept
And
it
it
simple.
aligned with me in the way that I can show appreciation and like my means and ability to like put something together for a teacher who deserves a good gift, but I don't have to, like I see what other room moms do. And I'm like, wow. And it's more just like outward, like
Grandiose.
more grandiose. And so it made me feel a certain way about myself instead of being, so that's just one tiny example of like, do I have to do it this way? No, I can still do the thing, but do it in a way that is like
genuine and authentic to you.
Better for me and leaves me feeling mentally good. So that's something I learned from you. And that's like that alignment and balance that you feel like you're always weaving into your life, whether you you probably don't give yourself enough credit for how
I don't think I
that.
do. I think that was 2018 though. Because so we were in a really, really terrible car accident. And after that, I would feel myself get overwhelmed very easily, more quickly than normal. I would think. And that made me stop like pushing to perseverance, like pushing to a certain point. And it made me pause a minute. And I do try to always remember that of like the yes and the no. And I think vividly that's what it was. Cause I remember being on a run with a friend and I remember saying that. I just remember being like, I get overwhelmed so much easier now, which it's a good thing to realize because then I am very much, go, push, push, push. And so, you can only do that for so long. And so I think,
your awareness of that overwhelm.
It really started. But, such is life, So, okay. So that was 2020
alignment. And then 2021, tell me about this
2021
word. I don't remember this one.
So the first word I had come up with, we were at, so I think I don't know if this came later in the year or when this came, but we went out to eat at a soccer game. It was in Atlanta, not that far. And it was at Moxie Burger. And when you go inside Moxie Burger, I think the ones I've seen, it's got the word Moxie there and it has all of like the synonyms under it. And it's very similar to bold, but it's all like, I just was like, oh, I really like that word Moxie. Like, that's like sassy. You're like, I don't feel like that was not me. And so that's why I was like, I don't know. Well, with 2020, it was a lot of, I don't know, you felt like I felt I was told to do these things and blah, 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 blah. It was all very, I don't know, like authoritarian type thing. And I think that Moxie was coming out to be like, hey, tell me what to do. Not in a bad way, but you know what I mean? Like,
it's okay to say that. Yeah.
I have a voice.
You're kind of forced to feel that, like that Moxie towards the situation. It kind of brought it out in you and not like, in a negative way, almost in a confident way.
That was part of that confident thing. At least that's what I was trying to. But then I have Finnish roots. So like the country Finland, that's like my dad's side of the family is from there. And so my aunt on my dad's side, she loves all of the Finnish culture and Finnish words. And she's very like kind of proud of that heritage. And she sent me this mug. I don't know how to pronounce it though. I'm pronouncing it Sisu. It's Sisu. And it's literally like the Finnish word for like moxie. That thing. And I was like, I think I'm going to switch that a bit and then kind of tap into those roots. Cause I do have this ring that I wear that she had given me from my great grandmother. So whom I never met. And it's, I sometimes wear it as, it's like a little confidence piece for me. Sometimes I'll wear that and I'll be like, okay, and I always think of, you've got your ancestors with you who have been through this, like that strong female ancestor, because the ring is bigger. It's a feminine ring. It's a black onyx one. And to me, I'm like, she's the strong hands. Like there's just something about it where I like try to, when I need that little, like I embody that. So that's kind of where I was like, I want to use that.
You might need to bring that ring out this year for your
wear it a
bowl.
lot.
Or just keep wearing it.
Just be honest.
I love that. Gave me chills hearing you talk about that.
Wear that a lot. So, yeah. So that was Moxie. That was Moxie.
I love the word
fun.
Moxie. I was first introduced to the word Moxie from, did you ever read Jen Hatmaker's books?
No, but I know who she is. Yeah.
One of her first books was called Of Mess and Moxie. And I loved it.
Okay.
It's like the mess and the Moxie put together, motherhood, figuring out life.
Sounds about right.
You know, womanhood, all that stuff. And I love that word Moxie.
Yeah. I like it. So, and maybe I'll say this at the end, but if I don't say it now, I'll probably forget. But I tried to like keep these words like with me, you know, like all of them. So yeah, you all focus on one, but it's kind of like if I were to have done this exercise and not have had my children and wanted some sort of like, if I wanted birth affirmations on the wall or something, I would pick all of these old words of the year to have surrounding me, to remind me of like, remember the growth, remember the surrender, remember the pause, you know, like all of those little things to remind me of that. So, I mean, they kind of stick with you. Although I'm wondering, I feel like I had the word, or maybe I played around with the word adaptability. I don't know that ever became a word. I feel like in 2022 it might have been, but instead I did, because I do have a list of like words, and I know you had said adaptable or something at one point. I was like, crap, did I have that word? But not so. 2022 was awareness. And I do think this was a big, kind of a big shift year. It ended up morphing into a phrase, and it's awareness precedes change. And so it's like, you really have, and this is what I try to tell people in the office though, too, because I'm like, you have to be aware that there's, you know, something going on, problem or whatever, good or bad or whatever. There's something going on for you to want to change it, right? You have to be aware that there is an issue before you can change it. And so that's kind of where I went with that word. I don't know.
Because you're like, I think a lot of people, including myself, want to initiate change in something, right? I think we're always sort of evaluating on it every day.
We want to evolve
basis, improve, whatever. But you can't actually get results in what you want unless you're aware of what you're feeling, or how it's feeling in your body, or how you're showing up in the world, or how the thing is existing, whatever it is. Like there has to be awareness. So that's that, connecting that with the change part, I think, is kind of the gold there. And my mind was kind of going towards pregnancy and birth with the word awareness. And that's what you and I do. That's what me and Hannah do. Like bringing awareness first of like, if we just like can seed a thought, an idea, a fact, a something, and then it makes you a little bit more aware about something that resonates with you, then you're more likely to initiate change by simply maybe researching it more. That's initiating change, learning more, but you have to first be aware of either how something makes you feel or how something's happening to you. And I think this comes up in yoga a lot too. When I do yoga is, and this is so good. Like if you can just like slow down and take like deep, slow breaths and notice, have awareness in your body to how it's feeling for you. No one can tell you that breath should feel a certain way. Like it only really matters how it feels to you, and that changes day to day. So whether it be in a yoga practice or just slowing down and breathing and being like, how am I feeling right now? What am I feeling in my body? And then you can make a shift in either the movement or the moment. And that's for me how I react to things. If I can take a moment and breathe and what's happening around me, how do I want to show up here? How can I do it differently? And sometimes it is a reflective practice too, versus a pre. Sometimes it's a post for me, and that's okay too, right? Something happens and I have to take some deep breaths and I'm like, okay, this could have been different. Anyway, so many
it applies. Yes.
parallels to the awareness. That kind of gives me the tingles. I love
That's why that one was such a good, it was such a good word with that, you know, especially with that intention I had behind it. And then that year did kind of end up like that. It was, and I then, I don't know in the past if I've looked at it, if I've applied the word into all the little areas that I identify with, you know, but there was like awareness of marriage, awareness with my husband, awareness with my kids, you know, like looking at all of those little ways or those little areas of places of change. So, I did really like that word a lot.
I'm loving it.
Yeah. So then last year, 2023, this might have been one of my favorite words. And it makes me laugh thinking about what you've said, about me in the past and then choosing this word. Cause it's like, oh no, I still have work to do. So my word was rhythm. And honestly, the first thing that comes to mind is Rhythm Nation by Janet Jackson. And like, oh my God. And do you know she went on tour last year? Like, so I told my patients about it in the office and I was like, y'all, Janet Jackson's one of my favorites. And she hadn't been on tour in forever. And I was like, it's because I chose the word rhythm. And it was Rhythm Nation.
Girl.
Anyway, maybe I'm saying my age, but so first I dance a little bit when I think of rhythm in my head and I think of Rhythm Nation and just, that's such a strong Janet song.
A good feeling.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I can't dance. So it doesn't really, that's not where the word rhythm goes. Rhythm was I didn't want the word balance because I don't like the connotations associated with balance as far as it being perfect, right? 50-50. I didn't want flow because it just felt like, I feel like I'd used that too much or I thought about it too much. So that's what rhythm meant, was the rhythm of life, the rhythm of seasons. And I wanted still more of that alignment of like, okay, this is what aligns with me. This is saying yes to things and no to things. Like still, like that's what's so funny because you mentioned that. And I was like, I still think I need to work on that.
It can be a constant. It can be, it's never fully fixed or not even needs to be fixed, just awareness of it.
But that's what rhythm was. And I will say, I feel like last year was a really good parenting year for me. I don't think I felt as stressed as I had. And so that's when I realized that when my cup is full, when I am in rhythm, I'm a better human being. Like that, if I had to sum up a phrase from last year. So,
and that is amazing because that's not an easy thing. Like so many people don't fill their cup or don't make awareness around like how they can show up better, and then realizing that benefits everyone around you and yourself. And so to kind of find that state, I think some people aren't willing to kind of look at it in the way that you do. And I think there's so much to learn and be open to there. I love it. I'm inspired.
So with them. So what I did this year with my vision board event, some years past, I've had so many things. I've made a double-sided board. All right. So we had slight technical difficulties. So we're back. We're going to try to splice this together. I don't know what it's going to sound like, but I know that we were talking about my double-sided vision boards before it was rudely interrupted by a power surge or something. I don't know. Anywho, so double-sided vision boards. This was not on my vision board. Thank you very much. In the past, I had so many thoughts. I did double-sided vision boards. And I would kind of flip it around based on the day because I put it right next to my bed. And then this past year, I liked the word rhythm so much. I wanted to keep that board. So I flipped it around and I put my new word on the back. I do like to have the word on there. I'm still not completely done with the board because I don't have the word on there specifically yet. I did ask my oldest, Ethan, who's pretty artsy. I asked him to make me a, one of those like little coloring sheet things. I wanted him to make me one, but have the word bold in there. And so he did that. So I've colored it and I put it in my planner, but he came up with a brilliant idea. He goes, Mommy, why don't you just make copies of this? So he doesn't have to keep making new ones for me. He's like, just make a copy of it and then you can use it wherever you want to. And I was like, you're very brilliant, my friend. So I made a copy. So we're going from
Work
the copies.
smarter, not harder.
Thank you. Yeah. So I made copies. So I'm thinking that's going to end up on the board. But yeah, that's my double-sided vision board thing. So that's my words of the year. That's my thoughts on the words of the year. I think it's a really fun and cool process. Now, what was cute was once again, I was like, we were coming up with topics for the show. And I was like, I don't know. wrote this new blog that I haven't written in like a year and a half or however long. And it's talking about the word of the year. And you're like, okay, let's do it. And I'm always like, nobody wants to hear this. And then you're like, nope, we're going to do it because this is how it's going to relate to everything. And you're like, and I've not done a word of the year. So I'm going to come up with one. And I have this giant blog that's like 18 paragraphs and it's the outline for our show. And then at the bottom, Rachel writes, it's like two lines. She's like, Rachel's word of the year. And it's like your word. And I'm like, this is amazing. It's like the cutest thing I've ever seen. So I would love to know what word I have forced you to.
Hey, I want to participate in the process.
Oh my God.
So I'll just say this about like myself. Like we are very similar, right? But then there are differences. And I am not good with a planner or a journal. I have lots of words, lots of thoughts. I love communication. I actually really love writing. I have a weird hang up around journaling. I've started journals and never finished them. That gives me anxiety. Anyways, I love the vision board activity. I've done that with you a couple times. I still have one from a couple years ago that I still have in my master bedroom closet
that was a good one
because I love it so much, and it's still like so many aspects of it still resonate. So another thing about me is my husband has this like spiral bound notebook, and he puts like random notes in it. We communicate mostly digitally. Like we manage all of our household stuff like on the Google Drive. We love digital like efficiencies. He's got this spiral bound notebook that he'll write random things in, like to-dos or ideas. Or last year at the end of beginning of 2023, he like asked the family, not like resolutions, but more like, what's something you want to do for yourself this year? Like what's something intentional you could do? And the boys had a couple things. Each of the boys had a couple things. Jay had a couple things. And then he had my name and it was blank. Because I can't do it. I'm like, I can't be confined, or there's an expectation that I can't like meet if I, but it was fun to see the boys that they were very like, Everett wanted to complete red belt in Taekwondo. He did that at the end of the year. Like he got through to it. He's going to be testing for black belt this year. And like, he had like something to do with basketball, like make a couple goals in a game. And he had done that. One of Marshall's was to stop putting his finger in his nose. He's still working on that.
It doesn't have to be.
But like there was one, I can't remember the other one he had, but he had achieved it like for their, so I'm like, this is a great exercise. And Jay had some things he had accomplished. It's so cool to like write it at the beginning of the year and then be able to look back on the year. I love it. But for whatever reason, I cannot fully
do it.
Engage in the process.
Like, I love it for you. You're like, I love that for you.
Well, and I'm kind of like, I want to do it, but then I still have some hangups around it. Maybe I need some to work that out. But
my cheeks are
when I was reading
so
this, and even talking about it, I was like, this is so inspiring. And I want to inspire others that if it resonates with you to do this, because I believe in it, like being able to look back on this and like just your intentionality around it and the way you weave it in and the way like it can show up in your life. I just am truly inspired by it. And so I want to participate in the conversation and have a word. And if you can remember, next year we can make me reflect on it. But I chose the word progress. I feel like I'm in the middle of a lot of big projects right now, a lot of growth and a lot of things happening and I just need to see things move forward. To
Mm-hmm.
not feel like I have too many things going that have kind of like stalled or stagnant, or just, it's just a season of like a lot of hands in a lot of different places. So I really just would like to have incremental progress to move through the things that in my mind I want to see done, because then that means I'm moving forward in the ways I want to move forward. So progress. And then, I mean, progress going to be applied to a lot of things. I spent all of last year, or 9 months of last year, trying to heal my body in different ways. I've been working with a pelvic floor therapist, and I've been working with a chiropractor very closely to address some chronic pain that I've been having and some dysfunction that I've had from having children and years of not taking care of myself. And the way I've always taken care of myself, like I work out, I eat good, but like there's this other layer I needed to kind of get to have like optimal health. And so I spent a big chunk of the year sort of almost like undoing and resetting. And I'm hoping for 2024 that the progress is that I get to like move into the phase that I want to physically and like be strong, be able to work out in the way I want to work out, and be healthy for my family. And I saw so much improvement in that. So I'm excited for 2024 for that to keep going, keep progressing in that area.
Look at you. That's so good. I love that.
There we go. I did it.
I'm proud of you. You put that, are you going to put that in the journal that Jay made?
It needs to go in Jay's journal because I don't have any.
Yeah, I was going to say, put it in Jay's journal.
It needs to go in Jay's spiral bound notebook that has like the most random things. But no, that's fine. I thought it was so cute to see that you had that.
No, I love that. And I love the family aspect of what what they're doing as well too. So, I like that word. I like that word a lot for you. What comes to mind a little bit too is like a progress over perfection, and not getting hung up on certain things, but it's like every little bit counts. And progress can also be, seeing something and saying, I need to backtrack a bit and then go this way. It's also, yes, it's moving forward, but I'm wanting you to realize like that progress can also be the aspect of like, okay, let's reanalyze. That's where I went here. Is that where I want to go? Is that what needs to happen? And then, kind of like, reevaluating that.
No, I definitely
it's a good word.
Need to let that sink in for sure. I have a hard time moving projects forward because I feel like if I can't finish like a big chunk of it or what I want, I don't get into it. Therefore, it's left simmering instead of just doing the like a little bit here and there, just truly trying to keep moving it forward incrementally. I have a hold up around that. So that's what I'm trying to prioritize and say it's okay if you can only work on it for 30 minutes versus needing like a 4-hour block to work on something. Like,
that's huge.
Do what you can with what you got, and it'll slowly but surely move the needle.
I know. So hopefully there's some words in here that maybe you can take with you either throughout the year, throughout pregnancy. Maybe there's new things that you learn. I'm going to link my blog up here. And then we have episode 130. It's a little solo one I did about birth affirmations and journal prompts. So that goes a little bit more in depth with this, and then shares some journal prompts you can use to maybe tease out some information. I do think if it aligns with you, journaling can be a very therapeutic process, unless it brings like stress.
Try
it's
it.
Like, well, let's,
you have to try
why does that bring stress there? And then in episode number 85, we did the visualizations for birth and life. And that's where we talked about the vision boards and how that can apply to birth as well. Because it's all about, I don't know, I guess it goes back to all about like digging a little bit deeper. Birth brings you to certain aspects of yourself that you didn't realize that you had. And so these are fun ways to honor that, the journey, honor the pregnancy, the labor, the birth, and hoping you kind of tap into some of that strength. So hopefully you gather a word. Oh, I will share this. Some parents have shared words. I have a runner patient and her word is slow. or slowly, which is really funny. She's like, that does not sound like what a runner would want, but she just had her third baby. And
she needs to be intentionally
and being intentional. We're probably going to, we're going to have her on the podcast. We're going to interview her. She's fantastic. So that's her word. My aunt, her word was simplify. I like that. I need to a lot of things. And then another chiropractic friend had the word devotion. So I like that. And then I had another patient with the word sustainable. So I don't know. It's really
that word.
cool. I know. Then I have these conversations with the patients in the office, and I'll be like, not that they need to know what the word means to me, but a lot of times, I don't know. I guess I like to have a little bit of insight into people and kind of share my thoughts and goals with them as well too.
Yeah.
And so with hers, I had come across the word sustainable growth, and she really, really liked that as well too. So, this is just, your word is your word. No right or wrong. That's the fun part. There's
Try
no right
it
or
out.
wrong.
Try it out.
All right. Stay tuned for another new episode next week.
Bye, friends.
Thank you for joining us on the Aligned Birth Podcast. We hope you found our discussions informative, inspiring, and enjoyable. Remember, when your body, mind, and intuition are aligned, you have the power to overcome any challenge that comes your way. We appreciate your support and leaving a review or rating, signing up for our newsletter, or becoming a direct listener supporter. Your contribution helps us continue delivering valuable content and reaching more listeners like yourself. Stay connected with us through our newsletter to receive the latest episodes and bonuses straight to your inbox each week. You can also connect with us on Instagram at aligned_birth. All links can be found in the show notes. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of the birthing individuals and new moms. Thank you for being a part of our community. We look forward to sharing more empowering conversations on the Aligned Birth Podcast. Until next time.